Hi guys, for science today we are going to be talking about pollination. We are going to start by watching a short video.
Welcome to Homeschool Pop. Today we are going to learn about pollination. But first, we want to hear from you. 9-year-old Zikra from Bahrain said, "Oh my goodness, I love the history of ancient Egypt. Thank you so much for sharing. We're so glad that you too could be featured on one of our videos." Hi, look at all these beautiful flowers that I've found. Let's look at some more. These flowers are so pretty. Look at how bluey, purpley they are. They're just so beautiful. And these ones are so red and... Oh, excuse me. These ones are so red and brilliant. And look at all the pretty colors. It's so beautiful. I love these flowers, but all the pollen is making me sneeze and sniffly, so I think we should go back inside. Alright, that's better. Well, flowers, they make pollen, and pollen is a fine powder. It's usually yellow, and it can make you sneeze, just like me earlier. Flowers use pollen to make seeds through a process called pollination. Okay, do you see these yellow feathery parts of the flower? This is the male part of the flower called the stamen, and that is where the pollen is made. Now this middle pink part of the flower is called the pistil, which is the female part of the flower. This is where the pollen needs to go so the flower can make seeds. Looking at this flower, do you think the yellow parts are the stamen or the pistil? That's right, that's the stamen. The stamen is the male part of the flower. That's the part that makes pollen. Now here's a different flower. Do you think this purple part in the middle is the stamen or the pistil? Very good, that's the pistil. The pistil is the female part of the flower where the pollen needs to go so that the flower can make seeds. When pollen is moved from the stamen to the pistil, it is called pollination. There are flowers that have both a stamen and a pistil, but there are some flowers that have only a pistil, and there are other flowers that have only a stamen. Pollen can't move by itself, so how will it get to the pistil? With the help of pollinators. Do you recognize this well-known pollinator? Very good, that's a honeybee. Honeybees are pollinators, and you can see the yellowy orange pollen on his leg right here. Pollinators are pollen helpers by moving the pollen to the pistil so the flower can make seeds. Let's look at some other pollinators. Do you know what this pollinator is called? That's right, this is a butterfly, and this one is called a painted lady butterfly. Butterflies are pollinators. What kind of animal is this? That's right, that's a bat. This is a flying fox, which is a fruit bat, and fruit bats are pollinators too. What's this little guy called? Great job, this is a hummingbird. It's a ruby-throated hummingbird, and hummingbirds are also pollinators. Other pollinators include wasps and moths. Ants and beetles like this ladybug are pollinators too. These other pollinators are very well known. They are bumblebees and honeybees. All right, Let's review what we've learned today. What is the fine yellow powder on this bee called? That's right, it's pollen. Pollen is a fine yellow powder. This yellow part of the flower makes pollen. Do you remember what it's called? That's right, that's the stamen. The stamen is the male part of the flower. That's the part that makes pollen. Why do flowers use pollen? Great job! Flowers use pollen to make seeds. This purple part of the flower is where the pollen needs to go so the flower can make seeds. Do you remember what it's called? Very good. That's the pistil. The pistil is the female part of the flower where the pollen needs to go so that the flower can make seeds. What is the process called when pollen is moved from the stamen to the pistil? Great job! When pollen is moved from the stamen to the pistil, it is called pollination. What is the name of the pollen helpers who move the pollen so the flower can make seeds? That's right, they're called pollinators. Pollinators are pollen helpers by moving the pollen to the pistil so the flower can make seeds. Now you know how the flowers around you make more flowers. Pollinators help them through a process called pollination so they can make seeds.
All right. So, our video there told us a little bit about pollination and the different parts of the flower and the animals that, are pollinators that help move the pollen from plant to plant. So what we're going to do next is we are going to read a passage, and to make it bigger, you're going to click on this little magnifying glass with the plus sign, and you can move the bar over. That way it's a little bit easier to see. All right. So I'm going to read this, and then you guys are going to answer a couple of questions. A closer look at pollination. Have you ever seen bees buzzing from flower to flower in a garden? This is because they are drawn to the sweet, sugary nectar of each flower. As bees drink nectar, they help in a process called pollination. Pollination is very important to the plant life cycle. It is how plants are able to make new seeds. Step-by-step pollination. Flowering plants have colorful, bright petals. The petals attract pollinators. These can be birds, bats, bees, and other insects. Even the wind can work as a pollinator. After getting to a flower, a pollinator drinks sweet nectar from it. As it drinks, pollen sticks to its body. The pollen comes from the male part of the flower called the stamen. Pollen looks like a yellow powder. The pollinator flies to the next flower, and it brings pollen from the first flower. Some of the pollen that falls off of its body lands on the female part of the flower, called the pistil. This pollen will slide down to the ovules or eggs inside the flower. When the pollen gets to an ovule, it is called fertilization. It means the plant will reproduce or make new seeds. For your assignment today, you are going to answer the following questions. What attracts bees to flowers? Why is pollination important? How do pollinators get pollen? What does pollen look like? How does pollen reach a plant's ovules? And describe the last step in pollination. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to click and drag these captions here to fit the pictures. So the first thing we see here is a bee buzzes from flower to flower in his garden. If you look at these pictures, I would say this first one here is where the bee is buzzing from flower to flower in the garden. Okay, so you're going to click and drag the rest of these in order to add the caption to the picture. Last thing you're going to do is you're going to watch a short video about demonstrating, I should say, pollination. So here we go. All right, so now that we have watched a video about pollination, we've read about pollination, and you've actually seen pollination being demonstrated, I want you to go and answer your questions about the text that we read and caption the pictures using the captions that are on the site. All right, when you're done with that, don't forget hit submit.